Hello, welcome to another episode of Clues, Cues and Reviews, and we're looking at One Piece chapter 836, the Vivre card that Lola gave. An interesting chapter. I will get into the breakdowns and the talking points of this, but just to give a quick update about the other kind of series that I review. With the ending of Bleach, hopefully if you've seen the previous video, if you haven't already, please do so. It's meant to get replaced next week with I believe it's called the Red Spirit or Sprite manga. I will keep an eye on that and see how it goes. With this, a shift of my schedule will happen. So the idea is, depending on how Black Clover translates or gets scanner-related uploads, I might do that on the Friday. But the idea is, I'm guessing what I'm probably going to do is One Piece and Boku no Hero Academia on a Thursday, and then if Black Clover's out on a Friday, that and potentially World Trigger. So look forward to that, and I will start picking up a few as well. I am looking to do Shogeki Shoma, Haikyuu, potentially do the new manga that's out, the Promised Neverland, and potentially a few others. So look out for that. But without further ado, let's get into the review. So, point number 1. The realization that Lola's Vivre card and Lola's mother, that we found out about years ago, that was foreshadowed ages ago. Now Nami has realized that Lola and her mother are all to do with Big Mom, being that Big Mom is Lola's mother, and the big guy is actually Lola's father. What makes that interesting throughout this chapter is the fact that the homies now seeing the resonance of the soul of Big Mom on the Vivre card, essentially are scared to attack Nami. This makes it interesting because if she wants to escape, there's a good chance of this. However, probably Madame Burley or Barley will probably not allow that. But it's an interesting topic to kind of consider, an interesting point of this chapter. Now, point number 2. Point number 2 was interesting for a few different reasons. Number 1 was the fact that Randolph's attack was pretty epic. It did some damage, but just not to Luffy and the crew. So effectively missed. Now what made that funny and interesting at the same time was the interesting part came where it seemed like the trees from the seducing forest perished through fear. I believe that was due to Cracker himself, fear of him rather than the attack, although it wasn't really clear. However, what made it funny was when Cracker started basically cussing Randolph. He goes, "How dare you do that in my presence, and you do it in plain sight as well." And we're like, it wasn't my fault, it was his fault. And that part was just funny because he spoke, and secondly, straight away blamed somebody else who was pretty much just the vessel. Really, it was just a funny scene. The idea that he spoke kind of reconfirms the idea of him being a homie. Will this affect him attacking Nami? I'm not quite sure, but it's an interesting topic to bear in mind. Point number 3: the purpose of Cracker turning up. So he basically explains, he goes, "Broly, I know you can do your thing, but you can't deal with Luffy." And Big Mom, knowing that he took down Doflamingo, does not want to take any risks, and she sent one of her top 3. A person even Luffy recognizes his strength and his battle prowess. With a bounty of 860 million, you can understand why that's the case, being that Luffy is at 500 million. However, there's things to bear in mind with this though. He may be of the top 3. He may have 860 million. However, this is partly due to Big Mom. Similar to how we saw Jack. He had a bounty of 1 billion and he's under Kaido. It is a lot to do with the idea of being an underling of a Yonko. Let's not forget though, I'm sure he's powerful in his own way. I'm sure he's more than capable, but we have to take that into consideration. It's to do with the threat to the world government, not necessarily how strong he specifically is. Also, the idea of the setup between Luffy versus Cracker, and then potentially now Madame Burley or Burley, whatever her name is, and Nami is a good fight dynamic, and I see that working out pretty well. Although Nami wants to run away and she doesn't want him to fight. So what this does mean, potentially, is this is kind of like the gatekeeper to the main kind of event, kind of like the mini boss, so to speak, and it will kind of show how Luffy compares. Ultimately, Luffy will probably go all out, as you already know, but it'll show how he can deal with people of higher bounties, because the scale of the bounties aren't very clear, or isn't very clear. So the idea is how he compares now to this fellow will indicate what his potential bounty can be after this. Let's not forget, once this happens, his bounty is not all of a sudden going to shoot up. If he can beat Cracker, there'll have to be other elements involved. So if he can hang with this guy, Cracker, this shows he has the potential to be Yonkou Luffy, I mean. So that's point number 3. Point number 4, Madame Broly's or Burly's power. She has shown that now she has captured both Kara and Chopper, which means they're not really going to be effective in this battle, and ultimately they have to defeat her to get them out. The full extent of her powers haven't really been explained, or haven't been really thoroughly kind of delved into, and we don't really know the intricacies of how the power works. But this mirror world that's got the associates of Luffy trapped, they have to resolve that to have a fighting force to move forward. I think also what this does is this does set up the potential of Kara and Chopper having fights later on. So it's kind of saving them for a plot device later on down the story. But again, going back to the idea of the setup between Nami versus Madame Broly, it's down to her, Nami, to do her thing to kind of deal with the situation. At the same time, remember we've had that comparison, Luffy's too strong for her, so this gives us an idea of a weaker member of the crew can now deal with this character, in this case Nami, which kind of helps the weaker fighters actually get fights. You got to also understand that we still don't know what's going on with Brook and Pedro, and I'm assuming that's going to get tied in later on, as we've now been told that the rest of the Vinsmoke family, the brothers, will all be on site in a day and a half. So this story or this fight has to really get resolved by that time, otherwise we are going to have other problems, but I'm sure we'll find out very soon. That's point number 4. Point number 5, and the setup for the final fight of this chapter, was interesting because of the said statements of Cracker and Lola's father. What I found interesting was the way it was worded. Now, bearing in mind there can be mistranslation, it is an early release and the official translation won't come out till Monday, which I'll probably go over and mention in next week's video. But it's interesting that he specifically said, "I might be your father," and then Cracker said, "You may have been one of the originals, but you are not my father now." Also mentioning that the 43 husbands of Big Mom are considered outsiders with no blood relation. I find this interesting because this kind of hints that potentially the idea of these children may have not been made or biologically given birth to in the conventional means. There could be some more to it. But he also specifically says that both Chiffon and Lola are his flesh and blood. So it's interesting how that dynamic works. So it might be a case that it takes, like a surrogate parent, and it's a devil fruit ability that creates it. We don't really know. It is speculation at this point, but I just really found that point interesting. As you know, Cracker does not really give a shit, and he's there to try and kill a guy who calls loose-lipped, and someone that he, Big Mom won't miss, essentially. This is where Luffy steps in, stops the attack, and sets up the final battle. Now, let's not forget, in this chapter, we get to see some of the prowess of Cracker in the idea that he sent flying Luffy. He just made him fly. So the guy has tremendous strength, and he has the ability to somehow multiply his arms, which would be an interesting fight for Zoro if he was here. Ashura form versus that technique would be really interesting. Unfortunately, we don't get that. We'll hopefully find out about Zoro later on, but it does set up this fight. How will Luffy deal with the battle techniques, the physical strength of the giant that is Cracker? We'll have to wait and see. Is this going to get really wrapped up pretty quickly? I hope not. I do hope it gets wrapped up. I don't want it to be a one-hit KO. I want this to be an opportunity for Luffy to shine in a different way rather than pure force. Use some logic, use some techniques. Maybe come out with a technique we haven't seen before, and hopefully show something new that he's got in his arsenal, because we really haven't seen everything. Because if you think back from the time skip, yes, he's shown Haki, yes, he's shown the ability to fight using it, and he's kind of expanded on a few things. We've now seen Gear 4th, but is that all he's got? Is that all he's learnt in the last 2 years. Ultimately, we have to wait and see. I'm hoping we find it in the next few chapters. I'm hoping it gets wrapped up, but not straight away. Giving it a couple of chapters so that time period of the day and a half can go, so the other kind of gears and the cogs in this story kind of get ticked over a little bit, and we get to see all the pieces in play and get it all come together. So that's pretty much the ending of my review. I hope you enjoyed the chapter. Plenty of setup, a lot of things to look forward to, and hopefully an epic battle to come. If you've enjoyed my review, please give me a thumbs up and let me know in the comment section below what you thought of this chapter and the points that I've brought forward. If this throws some type of theory out there, if this kind of gets the creative juices flowing, please let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and let's build a conversation on what potentially might happen. As always, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe. I'd greatly appreciate that, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.